Welcome again to another episode of the Cutting Edge Podcast. Today we have Massiel Diez as a guest. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for making the drive. I know it's a little bit for you, but you're over there on the north side a little bit?
Yes, near the Woodlands. But thank you for having me on. I'm super pumped and excited to be on the Cool Edge Bits podcast called The Cutting Edge.
Cutting Edge, yes.
Which I love. Great,
That's
great
actually
name.
where some of the, a lot of the action is there on the north side, right? Conroe, there's a bunch of manufacturing and all that stuff going on. Over there. So, no, I think we're very excited to have you. We definitely, prepared a little bit. We've been waiting to have you on, and we know that you have a great network, great following. So,
thank you.
We appreciate having you. And yeah, I usually just like to start out with just kind of like beginnings, right? Like early life, family, and then get into some business and other stuff. So, yeah, just tell us like, where did your life start? How did your journey, get to where your family moved to Canada and on and on? Like, how was it, your early years, would you say?
Awesome. Well, thank you again for having me on the podcast. Again, super pumped to be here. And a little bit about myself, let's see. So I was born on an island called San Andres, and it belongs to Colombia. So I have a Colombian passport.
Oh, wow.
But
where is that exactly?
It's right in the Caribbean.
Really?
Sea, yes, sea, Caribbean Ocean.
Close to Colombia?
Yes,
Okay.
right in between. So actually, we're closer to Nicaragua on the map, but we're closer. We're not as close to Colombia, but Colombia colonized San Andres.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And how big is the island?
It's super small. Maybe less than 100,000 people live on it, and you can bike or run around the island, really.
So about like the Woodlands? The population?
Probably, yeah.
Probably so.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome. So island life. So how long were you there?
Unfortunately, I wasn't there that long, so I wish I could say I had this amazing island life.
Right.
But at the age of 4, my mom decided to pretty much pack her bags, very little money, sold everything, and we moved to Montreal in Canada. So I went from this beautiful island to the middle of winter, minus 40 in Canada.
I can feel you. I went opposite, so we immigrated as well. I was 9 from Russia, but I kind of did the opposite. I went from Siberia, which is like Canada, to beautiful, our great state of Texas, Houston, our town.
So weather-wise, we did the opposite. But yeah, pretty much landed in Montreal, and we had some family members that had left Colombia years ago, and my mom decided to make this home for a better future for myself. And my grandmother followed, some of my uncles and aunts followed.
So was it just mom? Or
just mom.
No mom, dad, just mom?
No. So since we're going there, no. So my dad left my mom when she was pregnant, and they still have a good friendship, but I never grew up with him, never. So I call it's good and bad at the same time, right? But I think I am who I am today because of that. So I don't ever want to demonize the fact that I didn't have a dad. I'm like, look how great I am because he wasn't there. And I think if he would have been there, maybe I would have been like screwed up because he is screwed up himself.
Different.
And so, yeah.
So you don't have a relationship with him, really?
I don't. Oh, growing up, I did in the sense that like, hey, we're going to call your dad for Father's Day or, Christmas, like the traditional stuff that you call your parents for. But he was never really there for anything. So because we lived in Canada and he stayed in Colombia, he never came to Canada to visit.
In the island or in Colombia itself?
He stayed on the island, and then he moved into Medellin, which is where he's from.
Okay.
And what my mom did really good though was she always painted this really good picture about him. Like he's awesome and we're friends and he's your dad. She didn't want me to grow up being like, oh, I don't have a dad, because I do. Like he was there. I knew who he was.
Right.
But I think when I was younger, they tried, sending me to Colombia for like a week or 2 during Christmas or just to build that relationship with him. And over the years, it was nice. Like every time I'd go, he would treat me super well and buy me things. Yeah, I did. I went and I spent 2 weeks with him, etc. But I think at the end of the day, that was like a few times in my 18 years of like before I became an adult, of just like a few interactions with him when it came to like actually physically being there with him. And then I think for a lot of people, when you become an adult, you realize like, wait, some people are messed up and there are kids.
Like,
yeah. And so for me, it was like, you know what, as an adult, I'm choosing to not have a relationship with him, because I think when you're an adult, you can make those decisions of whether or not you want somebody in your life or not. And I'm somebody that cuts people out pretty easily, and it's just my character. It's like if you're not negative, if you're toxic, you're out. Like I don't deal with that kind of stuff within my life. I like to keep it very positive. And so unfortunately, even though he is a father or like a mom or a cousin or I think people have a hard time with cutting family. I'm like, it doesn't matter whether they're
We
blood
don't
or
choose
not.
your family.
Exactly. And so, yeah, he's not part of my life as of today.
And so do you have brothers, sisters?
No, I'm an only child.
Okay.
And I always talk about how amazing my mom was because she made me feel like I never missed anything. Like she was such a good mom that there was never a way for me to look and like, oh, I don't have a dad. Like there was never any emptiness when it came to that when I was a kid because she just did such a great job at raising me and providing so many opportunities for me. And that kind of gets me into a little bit of like, I chose to become an engineer. And it was pretty much, and I think a lot of immigrant parents have this, where they really push their kid on education. And it's like, hey, we came to this country, you better go to the top university, you better become somebody, you better help financially later on. And it's things that I think like my friends who are either Canadian or American don't understand.
Right.
But as an immigrant, when you show up to a new country, there's a lot of pressure and a lot on your shoulders from your parents on you better do something really great with your life because we literally, she sacrificed her whole life for me. So it's like, I have no choice but to make it.
I get that from my dad because he was like this great big scientist and engineer, and he was like the second guy up in one of the biggest universities in the city, which is the biggest research center, I think, in Europe, in the town we were in. And he was like the next guy to be the head of the thermal physics university thing. And literally like a couple months before that, we immigrated to the U.S. And so he makes sure he reminds us of that,
Yes.
So, okay. So sounds like, your mom is awesome and, she helped raise you in a good way. And you can tell because interacting with you now, you're a great human. And so you're going through school. I don't know, for us, it's elementary, middle school, high school. I'm sure it's a little different there. What gets you in your, let's say, teen years of kind of like you're maturing and maybe college is coming up, like what gets you to start thinking about work and what led you into this industry? Like how did that all happen when you were younger?
Yeah, so I'd say hard work and like that work ethic was instilled in me from a very young age. And weirdly, like it wasn't my mom instilling it in the sense that she wasn't like, hey, at 15, you better go get a job because we're not going to pay for anything. Like if anything, my mom did the complete opposite. And it's very immigrant for her where they don't want you to go to work at a young age because then you taste money and then they're afraid that you're not going to go to college because they're like, well, I'm working and I have money. Why would I go to school? Right. And so when I came to her at like 16 when I could legally work in Canada and I wanted to literally go work at McDonald's. Like I wanted to go work at McDonald's for some weird reason. Or like customer service or any of that stuff I really enjoyed. And she was really against it. And I was like, hey, I want money. And she's like, well, what can I get you? Like your needs are met at home, but it's like I always weirdly wanted more. And so again, it wasn't instilled in her of like, go get a job, but I knew that I wanted to work so I can make money and be financially independent and free. And I think a lot of it comes from just being an immigrant and struggling financially my whole life. And we never had a house until I turned 16 years old. Before that, we rented little apartments or we lived with family. And so for a weird reason, like, again, it wasn't instilled in me, but I knew hard work was the way I could get out of this and not like transfer it to my daughter in the future. It's like that generational breaking of financially, that's what I wanted. And so, it wasn't instilled in me in the sense of like, you got to work hard, but I saw her kill herself multiple jobs. She worked on the weekends. She was also trying to go back to school because she's a microbiologist in Colombia. But when you go to Canada, they don't take your degree for anything.
Oh, you weren't able to transfer
She wasn't able to transfer it.
Oh, wow.
And so she had multiple jobs. She went back to school because education was such a big thing for her, And so I saw all of that. And honestly, like when I look back at like my teenage years or any of that stuff, I never had a chance to, I think, like, be a teenager. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Or even in my early 20s, I never had a chance to, not that I wasn't enjoying it, but I was just so focused on surviving to be able to get to where I wanted in life, which was get to a really good college and become an engineer and make some money. So when people were partying and having a great time in college, and even in high school, I was always like the boring person that never hang out with people. I was always studying. I wanted to get the best grades. And I shut a lot of people out and nobody understood me. Like, like why?
What are you doing?
But I had a goal of what I wanted to become. And I'm happy to say that like I was able to achieve it. And all the friends that I used to hang out with back then who didn't understand, they haven't done anything with their lives. They're still there doing the same shit.
Yeah.
And so it's hard when you're going through it. But now that it's like, 10, 15 years later, I'm like, I'm so glad I stuck to it. And I didn't get sucked into the society of like, we got to go clubbing every Friday, or we got to hang out, we got to drink.
So you don't feel like you missed anything?
I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh, I guess I should have gone clubbing a little bit more often because I do like to party, but I didn't. But I'm like, you know what? I could party today at 35 and have a great time.
But now, like, let's say, just based on what you were saying, because I heard you talk about, even at a young age, wanting to make money. Did that come from maybe like, I guess this maybe is a two-part question, from not having it and feeling like, well, it's just me and mom and I've got to like jump into it and go as early as I can and be able to like at least take care of myself because maybe you're feeling like, oh crap, like I'm 16, 17, 18, I'm out. Like I need to like, but then she's telling you to go to school. Like how did that play? And also now that you are older, and you're married with a child and you do have money and you probably don't have, so like is too much money. Like I feel personally, okay, I'll tell you, the more money you make, like Biggie said it best, more money, more problems, right? Like there's always a place to put it, right? It's like, oh, okay, let's put the kids into this new thing, and right, like where is that line? Because I think money is helpful, it's a great tool and you can live a comfortable life, but also like if you focus so much on it, like could that maybe lead you in the wrong direction?
Yes. So I think to answer the first part of my mom pushing me to go to school, etc., and I wanted to work, but I also did want to go to school. Like I knew that there was no way I would leave this house if I wasn't going to college, right?
Oh, really?
Which is different with how I feel today, because with our daughter, I'm like, if she doesn't go to college, better for me. Like, and not even financially, like we would take care of the college if she needed to, but I find it's better to not go to college. And I know people are going to think that's crazy, but we're in 2025 and I'm like, why are you getting a degree today?
These days, you're so right.
I don't know, like AI is going to replace like half of us.
Well, you can do college with AI.
Yes.
Like you just sit there and
not
study.
just the AI part, but like I find like I wish my path would have been more entrepreneurial, because I knew I had that in me my whole life, but my mom or just our family never pushed entrepreneurship. It was like, oh, get back in line and let's all just go to college,
I feel like these days, like it's a lot of money. You get into debt, you get out with a degree, and most colleges are like now, most degrees overwhelmingly are like degrees that prepare you to do a thing that a robot or a computer is going to do. So like
it's outdated. The education's just outdated.
Yeah, and so like you're completely right. I heard Elon Musk say that. Like, dude, these days, like get out and get interpersonal experiences with real people, because like that's the one thing that's going to stay when everything else takes over. It's going to be like, hey, this will never go, right? Like stand-up comedy. I listen to a lot of comedy stand-up. It's like, yeah, maybe they'll get some bot-looking thing to start going to, places and telling jokes or whatever. But just that person on a stage at a club and just that timing of making a joke, or maybe I don't have a joke, I just come up with something, that'll never go.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think similar. Okay, so second part of the question, the money situation. What do you?
Yeah, so I think I always wanted more for my life and money because I didn't have it. And I felt like, and honestly, I think like the people who tell you that, like money's not good or money, like you shouldn't get money, like in my opinion, like don't have money. And that's usually where it comes from. There is a fine line of like, are you just chasing money and you're not enjoying what you have and the journey and like all the great things that you could also have? I just think money makes you more of who you are. So if you're already like an unhappy, miserable person and you have money, like that's a bad recipe. Like it's not going to be good. Money's not going to fix your problems. But if you're a generous and you're happy and you're excited about life and you get money, like that's a great combo, because money, I find, does let you have experiences in life that you can't have. Like, and the stress of like, can I pay my bills? Can I afford to send my daughter to X? Can we go on a vacation? Like so many people can't afford that. And that in itself is a stressor that I don't want.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a fine balance. And just to answer your question on engineering and why I decided to go to it, I literally went and I Googled what was the engineering degree that I could get the most amount of money from. And chemical engineering was the first one that showed up, which is why I became a chemical engineer.
Oh.
Literally based on what Google told me. Usually it's petroleum, that's higher, but they didn't have petroleum engineering in like the school that I wanted to go to in Canada at McGill University. So I went really for the first one that was chemical engineering.
That's an old, I looked up that college. It's been around forever, huh? It's like
the
200
most beautiful
years.
campus. We call it the Harvard of Canada.
Oh, is it? Is it
Yeah.
like a highly
It's a
regarded school?
top school in Canada.
Wow, that's awesome. And so you were able to get in there because I know growing up you were a good student and you
Education was always pushed on me. I had to be the best in the class. The typical, like, I was always very competitive, and I wanted to have the best grades. If I didn't have the best grades, I would be really hard on myself. I studied probably too much. Like, I don't think I needed to study that much, but I was always very prepared for exams. And that got me into the best college. And then even while I was in college, I was competing to be the best in my classes.
Yeah.
Again, like, I don't think it matters. Like, your GPA at the end of the day doesn't matter. We're all going to get to careers. We're all going to get to corporate America. And then it's really how you perform there that it will really make a differentiator. That's a part of my life where I wish I would have just relaxed a little bit. Like, why are you trying to be the best for the highest GPA and really not enjoying 18 to 22 by the time I graduated? Because I didn't do anything other than study. Like, I would just hide in my room, wake up super early, work out, and just study nonstop, go to school. I did have 2 jobs while I was going to college.
Wow.
And sometimes I would get frustrated where my other friends, who all were very wealthy students from international parents, so like people from China, from Russia, from Saudi, Egypt, from wherever, and they all went to college with me, and they all had a great life. Like, parents were taking care of their, their dorm room, and like food was paid for, college was paid for, and they could go out and hang out after classes. I couldn't. I had to work. I had to go home. I had to, but I think at the end of the day, all of those little things that I was doing that I didn't realize were setting me up for success in the future of just my discipline and knowing what I need to do to be successful, if that makes any sense.
Very respectful, for sure. I would definitely wish, and I would say try to get to a point to where my children are like that. I don't. I think there's a balance, like you say, but it's very. I think it prepares you. It's like the tough, let's say, struggles that, let's say, in my life, I'm sure your life, like periods of time where just things are not going right, or you have to work and work and work just to be even with the person next to you. When you're like, well, they're just mom and dad's taking, like all that. I think, and you go through those battles, and then you overcome them. That makes you a tougher and a better human. So, okay, so you get out of college. I remember listening to something interesting you said where you picked your career, or you did kind of went into the engineering because you saw like a picture of a lady wearing that looked like you or something like that.
So once I studied chemical engineering, I actually got in by Googling the top salaries.
Right.
In my second year of university, Schlumberger was at the career fair, and they had a poster of a girl wearing blue coveralls. Her hair and makeup were done, and she had high heels on one foot and steel toes on the other.
Oh, that's cool.
And weirdly, like, I just always say it's so weird, I saw that poster and I'm like, whatever company that is, I want to go work with them because they're marketing to me. Like, I saw myself in the poster. And it's funny because now I went back and looked at what the poster looked like, and it literally, the girl's blonde. Like, she doesn't look like me at all.
But you had that
in
vision,
that moment,
right?
I like saw myself in her, and I didn't know what Schlumberger was. I couldn't even say their name properly. Never heard of them in my life. But I went to their booth and I applied to be an intern. And it said, you get to work outside, you were going to be a field engineer, intern, whatever. I didn't know the money that came with it, but I always heard oil and gas made a lot of money from my my friends in school.
Yeah.
And I applied, and the lady told me, we only pick 3 interns in all of Canada. So you're competing with like hundreds, probably thousands of students. And I was like, I know I'll probably like get chosen because I'm unique. And I think the funny thing is when she first interviewed me at the booth, she kind of looked at me, and I was, typical when you go to a career fair, you're like all dressed up, you have your hair, makeup done, you're trying to be super presentable. And I think she probably looked at me and was like, I don't think this girl can make it in the field. Like
Oh,
just
she's not tough enough. Or
yeah.
something.
And honestly, like now that I did the work for 5 years, I would probably judge like a
same
peppy
way.
girl
Yeah,
and be like,
yeah.
girl, I don't know, it's gonna be hard for you. But
Yeah.
I think what sold her on the moment, and I tell people when you're trying to get recruited, you have 30 seconds or less to make a pitch or to really get the buy-in for them because they have a pile of resumes. And I pretty much went up to her and I was like, whatever you see here, this isn't me. Like, I can work in the field, I could get my hands dirty, I could change a tire, like, and I kind of just pitched her on like, don't judge me for my appearance. I know I can do this work. And I think she gave me a shot because of that pitch where I was like, this isn't really me. I can really get down and dirty and help out and be, work with the guys out in the field.
That's interesting because I'm hearing from the stories you're telling, from the vision you saw of this girl with the heart, and then you pitching yourself to this late, like, guess what all that is? Marketing, right? And so
Yes.
that brings us to Midnight Marketing, which is a company that we use for our business, Cool Edge Bits, to do our marketing, and they do a great job. And I say they, but now I can say you because
Thank you.
recently you've transitioned from your work out in the let's say engineering sphere into marketing. And so how do you feel like, are there any skills from being an engineer and having so many years in the field and in the office, and how do you think that's going to help you, hurt you, influence you in your new venture in working as a biz dev person at Midnight?
So it's interesting because over the last 12 years that I was working for an oil and gas service company, I realized that a lot of the engineers, including myself, are very technical and we know our craft and we're good at numbers, etc. But if you are an engineer like myself, where we're quite unique, where we have the double personality of very creative people that think outside the box, that are willing to take risks, and that just have a different way of thinking with their brain, but can also be extremely smart and technical.
Numbers and
The duo that I bring, and there's a few people that I know like this, where you're like, you're an engineer, but you're more than that. When you
Keyword
have
few. There's not many.
There's not many,
No.
but if you're one of them, like you could be doing great stuff outside of wherever you're working, or influence where you're working and bring in the ideas for marketing and things like that. And even during my last few years, we were working, me as a technical sales engineer, and then when I was pitching ideas of how I would market this product, the engineers just couldn't wrap their head around.
Because they stay like in a practical
Yes,
box.
and I could get in and out, and I also think it's hard for an engineer to also have personality skills and like be personable.
Yeah.
So I think like I brought the best of both worlds, and I think that's why marketing was just like easy for me, because I've always had it, but I've also brought the edge of the technical expertise and understanding what the industry's, is and does, and also working on a rig for 5 years. Like I just bring a different set that I think is really great for marketing.
It's very interesting because I grew up in a household. Well, both of my parents engineers. My mom's a mechanical engineer, my dad engineer scientist, and like they're both definitely different. Like my mom is more like what like can be out people. This where my dad is more like focused in a lab, in an office, and I saw that right growing up. By the way, my mom works at Ryder Scott, which is a long-term company that's been. I mean, their top clients are like ADNOC and Shell, and what they do is they go in and do the work before the drilling and the production side comes in, and they do big estimates. Like if you want to go drill in Asia somewhere, they're going to contract her company out to say, hey, in the next 5 to 10 years, what are we going to see if we go ahead and start drilling here? And so they big like 1,000-page reports for a big company. Pretty solid top 2 or 3 company in that space. But I thought I'd mention that because I know like some of your engineering work initially as well. You did some of that, right?
I was doing wireline logging. So right when the well is drilled, we would go in with our tools and give a log to the operators and say, this is where your water zones are, here's where your oil, your pay zone, etc. So I did that for 5 years, going from rig to rig to rig to rig.
How was that? Because there's probably not a lot of females.
No.
Were you the only one sometimes?
Yeah, so I always say this. Service companies do a great job, at least the international ones, at recruiting women. At least in the last 20 years. So let's say at the shop where we would all like come together, there were a lot of other women. But when we would all go out to the rig, it was just you and your team of men, usually 2 to 3 other operators, which are usually men. I only met 1 female operator in my entire career.
Really?
Yeah. And so it was just you and them. And then when you would go out to the rig, then it was just guys. And then usually the medic would be a woman, etc. But with the people that you go out to the field and work with, that was just men. And, you know, people have bad experiences and good experiences. I've been lucky that I only had really great experiences.
Really?
And I try to understand like why some people have very bad experiences and why it wasn't like mine. And I think at the end of the day, it's just how you portray yourself when you go out to
How
a
you
field
carry
location.
yourself. Yeah.
And so, like, for example, like I always go back to like the safety meetings when we'd be out on the doghouse and it's just me. I'm like 22 years old, 23, like this young little girl that would show up with her coveralls that were too big for her. And I had to run this room with the safety meeting as a service company coming to perform work. And a lot of times they're talking, they're like, who cares, you know, or not paying attention. And I would like put my foot down and be like, all right, you know, right now I'm the engineer, and you it's awkward because you're like, ugh, you know, all these dudes are looking at you, and like, you have to like show this front of confidence. But honestly, every time I did, they would all be like, oh, okay, shut up, everybody, we got to listen to her, you know. So they were quite respectful in that end, but you did have to earn your respect. And I think after a few times of showing up to the same rig, they would remember you and be like, oh, she's super cool. She helps out.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to be treated differently. And I think when you carry yourself like that with a lot of respect and professionalism, you get that back.
I say like fake it till you make it. not necessarily in your case, but so by the way, I wanted to ask you like, what do you think in your personally is more comfortable for you, or you feel like you get onto some you know, business or a project and you get going when you prepare a whole bunch before and you come in with all this knowledge and all this, or when you're just thrown into it and you go?
I'm really good at being thrown into chaos.
Yeah, like
and I think
freestyle mode.
I've always been more of a freestyle person. And I think being a field engineer, you obviously need to prepare really well before you leave the shop, in the sense of checking all your tools, making sure your paperwork's done. Like everything that will go wrong will go wrong. Literally every job, I'm like, what's gonna happen today? It's chaos. So I think you need to be quite flexible when you do get a challenging problem of you haven't thought about this. It was always like, dude, I've never seen this before. Like, why? You know, after all these jobs, you would think that like, you know, and so you always have to come in with a very open mindset of like, we're gonna figure it out and it's gonna be okay.
And think outside the box, you know, too. Like I grew up playing tennis, and you know, there's like every tournament, if it's like a draw of 128 people, every single tournament, 127 of them lose in that tournament.
Yeah.
There's only one person that wins it, right? So it's like, and I heard some crazy statistic from Federer, Roger Federer, who's a great world, you know, one of the greatest of all time. And he was saying like, he won something like 82% of his matches, which is insane in his career, but he only won 53% of the points. In his life, like, you know, because, you know, tennis is a close sport. Like, you just edge someone by just a little bit, and you win that game, and then you win it, and then you win the set, and then you win the match. And so, like, but that's crazy to think that like almost every other point he lost, right? But it's just like that mindset of like, okay, cool, I won the point, move on, or I lost the point, short-term memory loss, go, right? And like I feel like life is like that, you know. And it's the people that are like, most people can, when you're riding high, can continue to ride high and it's all good. But I think where champions or leaders or, you know, are shown or made is like, hey, what happens when you lose the point, when things don't go? How quickly do you learn from it, forget about it, and then turn the next page? So it sounds like you've been pretty good at doing that.
Yeah, actually, just with what you mentioned, I listened to somebody who said it, and it was so well positioned. So I'm going to steal it because I feel the same way. But it's try to stay in the middle between highs and lows in life. Just makes you better in the sense that if you're winning, great. If you're making a good amount of money, great. But not like celebrating so high that when the lows come, they're so low and then you crash. Right. It's more of like, great, won, next, okay, cool, like satisfaction, okay, lost a little bit, but not focusing so much on the highs, so that you don't focus so much on the lows. Because
staying
when you're
even
very
keel.
Yes. And just kind of taking how it goes and just kind of staying in the middle is really a good way to take it. Because if you celebrate the highs, then the lows are going to be very low.
Yeah. No, that's good. Having a good balance. I like that. So basically, you're working, big company, SLB now, Schlumberger for a long time now. They've rebranded. And then, you know, for a long time, as you said, as an engineer. But recently, you've had a little bit of a career change, and I think we all love it because we always kind of see you there or in that role already. So now that you officially kind of take the step to move to Midnight Marketing. But I mean, just talking to you and hearing your experiences, how you grew up, and just how like outgoing you are, how you get along with. I couldn't imagine as someone like a higher up of like firing you or letting you go. Like, what happened? How is it possible that they moved on, from you working there, or you moved on from working there? Like, what? And by the way, I try to like look at all this content to do some research for this podcast, and I literally could not find the answer. So that's why I'm asking the question. What happened when you transitioned from SLB to now?
I got fired.
Oh, so it wasn't.
I'm kidding.
Like, I was like, oh no.
Clickbait.
Okay, good.
This is gonna be a good clip.
Wait,
marketing.
We're gonna name that title that episode.
Perfect.
I got fired. No, I'm just kidding.
No. Okay. Let me think. So, I was with SLB for right under 13 years. So I was on my 12th year. And I'll be the first person to say, like, they're an amazing company. Like, I love them. Like, when I close my eyes, I think of all the amazing people that, like, I got to do my career with there, and just the leaders, the bosses that I've had, just so much positivity. There's been a few shitty people that I can count on my hand that,
got the haters,
karma's coming for you. But, like, that's very small. At the end of the day, super positive experience. I think we're all going to have, like, a shitty manager or somebody that just doesn't like you, etc. But that's just life. That's any company. I think for me was a realization, I think, like a year ago, I would say 2024 was a huge transformative year for me in terms of like personal growth and like a lot of like mindset work and like digging into like my purpose in life. And I think the biggest thing that I found was I felt like my entire adulthood from 22, from the moment I graduated to where I was last year, so like 11, 10 years into this career, I realized that I was only on this path because it was like the path I was on, but it wasn't the path that I wanted. I don't know if that makes sense. Like sometimes you wake up in your life and you're like, what am I doing? Like, why am I chasing this corporate career? Why am I wanting to become the next XYZ? Why do I care so much about a title? Like all of these things. Yeah. So I started to do a lot of like, wait, am I on the right path? Yeah. And like, initially, I think when you're young, you're like, I want to make it in this company. Like you're kind of like brainwashed in a weird way of like, you're going to become somebody in this company. And I think we all work towards those promotions and climbing the corporate ladder. But I think for me, I turned 35, like half a year ago. And it was like, I don't know if this is the right career for me, but I've just been doing it. I've been doing it really great, and I've been climbing the corporate ladder because the company gave me really great opportunities, but it wasn't who I wanted to be anymore. And I think the biggest wake-up call, and without really insulting people, is I was working with the executive team all of last year, and I realized 100,000 of us, because we're 100,000 people plus in Schlumberger, I was like, all of these people are battling and like dying to make it to this pinnacle of the headquarters. You know what I mean? Like where you have a shiny glass office and all this stuff. And I was there. I was working with them. And I'm like, wait, I'm going to spend the next 10 years of my life to be here,
to get to this,
What
are they called? What are there's only like 12 of them. Fellows or scholars? What is it?
No, so that's a different one. So fellows is just like the top of the engineering in Schlumberger. But there was one of them in the headquarters, but I was really working with the executives. So I was working with the president and with the executive team. And they're all wonderful people, and I really love most of them. What are we all chasing? Like it was a title, you know?
I feel you there. I had like probably about almost 4 years ago, I had a similar awakening working in a big corporate kind of space where, teaching tennis. And I was like, man, this is just, and then I started my own business. And so like, and that's, to me, it's like so much more fun. And I felt like where I was at, and I'm sure for you too, it was like any ideas or any cool new direction or anything like that really could help the company in a major way.
They will never listen to you because you're young.
Rules and guidelines and regulations. And it's like, they don't listen to you or they put you down. And I'm like, so when I start my own business, I'm like, oh, this is like, so I can really go in any direction I want to go in. Yes. It's like, this is the best decision I ever made. So the question I want to ask is like, what do you prefer? And it sounds like you've already answered it, but like a small kind of startup or kind of small family office kind of feel, or a big corporate setting? It sounds like you've made your mind up.
Yeah, I think both have positives. I think the beauty of a big corporation that most people can graduate and go into, like the Chevrons, the Shells, the Schlumbergers, the Baker Hughes of the world, is it's really good for the first, I would say, like 5 years of pure training. You get to travel the world, etc. But then you need to figure out, like, do you want to just be like a number for the rest of your life and like fight 100,000 people to get to, you know, wherever you want? Or do you want to take those 5 years of experience and go build something great with a smaller company that's willing to take your advice and build something together?
Right.
The thing that you brought up was a good point. I felt like my whole career, I could bring ideas of things that we wanted to do, or how to change a perforating gun system that I was selling. How do we market differently? How do we do all this stuff? But I also understand that there's so many layers, and they're not just gonna take one person. Like, there's so much risk around it to implement what you're saying. But the problem with these big companies is that they miss out on young talent bringing things to the table, you know? Because at the end of the day, you're very judged on age. And so I feel like I always dealt with, like, she's young and she's a little girl. Like, versus like taking what I was bringing to the table and really running with it, because it could have, I think so many of the ideas that I had, even on people, on recruiting, on, you know, technologies on the perforating side, they were never listened to. But I don't judge them, because at the end of the day, like, nobody listened to them at that
they don't
age.
know any better.
They don't know any better.
One,
it's
and
culture.
Two, it's like, it's older, usually dudes. They're like, yeah, right, that's cute, but like, we've been doing it this way forever. I'm honestly, they're probably too afraid. I'm too scared to go do it another way or to take a risk. But like, with great risk comes great reward, and probably a lot of the things that you or I would bring, it's like, it's not even really risk. We're looking at the situation, we're seeing what sucks, where we can fix things and make it better, and then they're
not willing
at
to
every
open
level,
their mind.
shut it
And
down.
I've met a few companies recently that had all left, either a Schlumberger or a Baker or Halliburton, that they pitched the idea to them, and they were like, whatever. And then they literally left the company, went out and built something, and now they're worth like a few $100 million and probably like going to build this crazy thing that the company had access to, because your own employees were pitching this to you, but you were willing to not look at it. And then the latest guy that we just had on the podcast, Tim, I forgot his last name, but he's the CEO of Fervo Energy. And he told us that he went to the company that he was working for and pitched them geothermal. And was like, hey, why aren't we looking at geothermal wells, XYZ? And they were like, oh, like, no, we don't do that. Like, nobody has drilled horizontally for a geothermal well, whatever. And he was young. He must have been like 23, 24 years old. And he didn't like the answer. He went and got like an MBA and like studied at Stanford and got funding out of it to start Fervo Energy. And so it's like and now it's, you know, I think they have over 100 employees. He's killing it. And he brought this idea to a huge corporation that decided to shut it down.
You know what's funny about that?
It's just insane to me.
I love that story, but that's why, you know, the big man upstairs is always watching and rewards good people that are good to other people and do good business. And what's funny about that is he's probably going to go and sell Fervo
100%.
to a Schlumberger and be like, I told you, dummy, I'm out on the beach somewhere for the rest of my life.
Yes.
So
I've seen that a lot, where people have taken their ideas, ran with it, did a startup, built it up, and then sold it back to one of these big companies.
It's hilarious, right? Because like, why don't you just listen to this guy? You're paying him, even let's say you're paying him a couple $100,000 a year. Like, just take now you got to buy his company for $500 million, dummy, right?
Yes.
So anyway, that's cool, and I love that kind of get back that we get as, you know, entrepreneurs. So, okay, and so very interesting. But it sounds like you, by the way, very risky kind of too. Middle of your life, well, not middle. Let's say the first trimester of your life, because you are married, you do have a daughter, young child, and, you know, so kind of taking that risk from moving, let's say from an
amazing, literally career. And I think when I told people I wanted to leave, their biggest thing was like, that's the stupidest thing you could do. You have such a great career ahead of you. I knew that if I put in the work and I continued doing what I did, I could become somebody in the company. Like, I'm that confident I know I could have continued to add so much value, but at the end of the day, like, the end was so, like, it wasn't success to me anymore. Doesn't justify the means. So I was just willing to try something out. I'm 35 years old. Let's take all the risks in the world. Like, I still feel quite young to go out and try shit out. And if it doesn't work, guess what? Corporate America is there. And I can go knock on any of these doors and get a job again. Some of the greatest businesses and businessmen started there. Like Walmart. I think the guy, whatever his name. Walton.
Yeah. I think he started it when he was like 52. KFC dude started when he's like 60. I mean, crazy. So what advice would you give to young mothers or, mothers of, let's say, in their 30s that maybe make this type of move where they go from a sure corporate job with 401k and W-2 and benefits and health insurance to then make a leap like that? What advice would you give?
I mean, I would give the advice to whether you're a mom or not, is just really like, life is short and no risk, no reward. And I always go back to the question of what's the worst thing that can happen? If it's not death, then go try it out. Also, we live in the USA. You know what I mean? You're going to be fine. You're going to, and if not, okay, you took a hit for a year and things didn't work out. Guess what? You're so much more valuable to the workplace after trying out a business for a year. Even though it failed, you learned. I tell people, if you go out and try to do your business and it doesn't work out, you got a free MBA, in a way, Yeah. And so it's what's the worst that can happen? And my biggest thing was, and you hear it a lot, there's a quote that says, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And I remember reading that quote over the years, and the first thing that would come to my mind is quit my job. If I wasn't afraid, I would just quit my job and do X, Y, Z and do what makes me happy. But we're all so scared to get out of our comfort zone. And my biggest realization, I think, for me, knowing that I made the right decision, was that on my last week, I went and said bye to so many friends and colleagues over the years, And the biggest thing that everybody told me was I wish I could do what you're doing. I wish when I was 35, I also left. I wish I would have quit my job 10 years ago. I wish I also had the opportunities that you have to go out and do this adventure. And my feedback to them is you can.
Not too. It's never too late.
Everybody else could do it. But it's this weird thing of you can do it and we can't. We're stuck here. It's nobody's stuck here. Nobody's stuck. You can go out and take the risk. You're just not willing to because you're scared.
That's cool that they're giving you that inspiration because you are where you are.
Everybody was oh my gosh, I wish I could do what you're doing. And that was weird for me to hear that from people who've been there 20, 30 years, 15 years. And I'm well, just, you can do it too.
Picking a different flavor for some people is just the scariest thing in the world.
Yes.
Let's talk about, switch subjects a little bit. By the way, I love all of that. So I know that you're very much into health and fitness, and a little birdie on a shoulder told me that you are very, very, your day goes in a specific manner. You always make sure you get your workout in. You're very kind of regimented with your schedule. Can you talk a little about that? How does fitness and how does living a healthy lifestyle, how does that help you in your family and work life?
Yeah, I think, so fitness has played a huge part in my life since I was about 17 years old. It's really when I got into fitness. And I've probably worked out every single day of my life since, except for when I had a C-section. And I couldn't work out for 6 weeks. But even at that, I was walking. Yeah. And I think I tell people at the day before I had my C-section at 38 weeks, I was on the Stairmaster and I was working out the day before. So it's there was never any limitations for me on working out, but it's genuinely what makes me happy. And it's how I feel I could take on the day is when you focus on yourself and you fill your own cup. So many people, in my opinion, are miserable with their lives or with their families or have so many excuses of I used to get this all the time, oh, I'm a mom, so good luck, wait till you're a mom, things are going to look different and, you're not going to have the same time. It's no, you're choosing to. Why can I do all of these things and still be able to be a mom, have a great career, have a great marriage, all these things? That's and true. It goes back to me of people just like to make excuses of why they can't do it. Right. If you really want to work out, and you don't have time, wake up at 4:30 in the morning and go get your workout in.
There's always enough time.
But there's always enough time. People are always how did you do FTB? And how do you do this? And how do you work at a career and be a mom? And it's we all have the same amount of time in the day, but I choose to be very regimented on what I'm spending my time on.
And what is that feeling when you finish a workout and you're ready to go take on the day, or you've had a long, hard-working, stressful day, and then you go hit a workout? What is that feeling that you get when you finish that workout?
It's the best feeling in the world. I'm I'm ready to take over the world after a workout. But I think fitness and discipline into your own health will make you a better leader, will make you a better career person, will make you a better entrepreneur and a business owner, et cetera, a better parent. And I think that's the missing piece to so many people is they don't take care of themselves and their mental health and their physical health. And then they wonder why they can't perform. in the corporate world.
Those two are, by the way,
they're
super
literally
tied together.
They're tied together. If you don't have the discipline to work on yourself, you know.
And speaking of FTB, so Flipping the Barrel podcast, I got a chance to kind of meet and talk with a couple weeks ago with Jamie, and she's awesome as well. I could see how you guys come together to do your thing. So I know that started very spontaneously. You guys kind of met and just got it going. But how has that been? Have you enjoyed just doing the podcast, and maybe what's one really memorable experience that you've had?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing Flipping the Barrel for almost 6 years now. I'm very grateful for both of our companies that let us do this, because we would always get asked, like, how are you guys not fired? How can you have a side hustle and still work, you know? And it's, I think if you're performing extremely well at work, then they have nothing for you to say. If you're not performing well, then I think they can bring up, hey, but you've got this side thing that it seems like you're spending a lot of time on. But if you're an A player, do whatever you want on the side. So really, like when people come to me for this kind of advice, I'm like, if you're killing it at work, you could literally do whatever you want outside, and they shouldn't technically care because you're not hurting their business, right?
That mirrors it kind of mirrors itself to like sports, right? Like let's say basketball, all the really good players that are all-stars, a lot of them have the Gatorades and the whatever.
They're doing something else.
Yeah, they're marketing. Have other business.
As long as you're still killing it and winning the game, nobody cares.
Right.
So that's my what I usually tell people on that. It's been an amazing experience for us. We've got to broaden our network and increase the people that we know, the access of the people that we have really access to have a conversation is people that I would have dreamt years ago, and now we know them because they've come on the podcast. And I think we've been able to build a really cool company, and what was a podcast turned into events, and people wanting to be part of everything that we do, to technology talks on LinkedIn. We've built it into a business, but I would say on the most memorable one, there's two. One was the idol that I looked up to at Schlumberger. Her name is Stephanie Cox. And she was somebody that I was like, oh my gosh, one day I want to be just like her. And if I get to meet her, I'll get an autograph. Like, that's how much I looked up to her. And that's, and then when she came on the podcast, it was like a full circle for me of like, oh my gosh, this lady that I would look at on the website came on the podcast and literally spent an afternoon with us talking to us. That was for me like, oh my gosh, I made it. Like,
how'd you make that happen?
Literally just reached out on LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then now she's a mentor, she's a friend. I've been to her house. We
awesome.
talk. I mean, it's beautiful how it went full circle to now a very close friend and mentor of mine, to somebody that I looked up to. And I really think what glued it together and made it happen was the podcast, was the ability for me to have value to give her, to bring her on the podcast, to then into a friendship. So that's the first one, was like having my idol on the podcast. Right. And the second one is the fact that we were able to monetize the podcast and make money off sponsorships. And I remember the very first time we made money, it was like, oh my gosh, like when you taste the first few $1,000s that you can make off something you created, it's game over when it comes to the corporate world. Because I'm like, what I made in one ask is probably what they would have given me after killing myself for like a year or two on a raise.
Right. You're like expected to do that with no, hey, great job, or
nothing. And it was just like an eye opener for me of like, wait, I can make this myself, versus waiting for somebody to like approve it and say, okay, we'll give you another $10,000. Good luck. And we're all so happy. Oh, thank you so much, because we got a 3-year raise, when really, when you think about inflation, like it wasn't that much. Right. But just, I would say like tasting, making your own money was really amazing.
And there's no limits, when you have your own podcast or you create your own content, or you're now working in a business that you're, it's kind of yours, or you're a big part of, obviously. There's really no, there's no limits there. So lastly, and not that obviously for you it's first, but I want to talk a little about family. So obviously getting to meet your husband Tim and kind of mingle with him a bit, and then kind of that evolved into us having a business relationship, and you guys representing us as a marketing team, which we've loved. And there's been so many great ideas that have come from yourselves, from us, that you've been able to put out there in a great way that's helped us not only show ourselves, but market ourselves and get business from it. The ROI on it. Like, I remember talking to Tim months and months back. And I asked him this question, like, hey, you know, we're going to be paying you an X amount a month. Like, what can I see my rate of return?
Everybody asks that question.
Yeah, but he's very truthful. I like what he said. He's like, look, I can't promise or guarantee you something, but with the work that we do, we're going to do enough to put you out there to where you'll see something. And he was right. I mean, it's amazing as to how much the marketing that you guys have done for us has been able to get me in front of potential customers or clients, and then we've been able to do our thing and close the deal and go, right? So how do you balance that, you know, from being a mom, you know, to a young child, to now working kind of on your own business, let's say, and not a corporate business, but also, you know, having husband around, or, you know, what role you're in, and how do you just balance all of it? Because that's kind of how we started. We're not now a family business, you know, we're growing into a big corporation, but we kind of started like that. And sometimes it's kind of like this when you work, you know, when you're working with someone you know you know, in the house. So how do you feel that transition is going to look for you?
Well, first, I'll say on the marketing side that you mentioned,
yes,
is we get that question a lot. I'm like, well, what's my ROI? You know, and I think people mix sales and marketing. They come hand in hand, but marketing's job isn't necessarily like you're going to sell 1 million drill bits because they saw that you have a really nice logo. Like, sales needs to come into it.
Right.
But how I see it is they come hand in hand in the sense that if you come and I'm, you know, drilling engineer, and you're going to pitch me your new product, okay? Your product can look great, but if you like put this, like your 3-year-old daughter made your logo, and like you and your brother in your basement made your website, and like your flyer looks like you put it together on Excel, maybe this is not everybody, but I automatically am like, oh, I don't know if that's what your brand looks like. Like, your logo's kind of shitty, and like your drill bits aren't even colored nicely, or like it looks like you like edged it yourself with a knife. Like, you didn't actually get a real product, you know, to print this.
Right.
Or just, I look at everything. And if you don't look overall like a legit brand, then I just kind of, because somebody else with a probably similar or less technically good drill bit comes along, and they've got some sick swag and like a nice sticker pack for me, and their logo looks beautiful, and they've got colors that match, and I go to their LinkedIn and it looks like they're a super cool company online. Like, all of that adds to I may do business with you. You know, of course, everything else needs to make sense, but this, in my opinion, helps so much when somebody's willing to give you money. It's just, if how you care about your brand, I feel is like how you care about your product. Because I've seen it a lot, especially in this industry. People may have really cool technology, but we're all judging you on your appearance online. So if you don't even have a LinkedIn, or it looks like you made like 3 posts a year, and then your website looks pretty shitty, like, I don't know, it just says a lot to me. Maybe I'm like a judgy millennial, but it just says a lot to me on like, you should take care of your brand.
It's almost like, it sounds like what you talked about in your personal is like fitness and working out. That in your personal life, marketing is like working out in the gym.
Yes.
Because then that gives you a good appearance.
Yes, you show up, and you could have probably, and this is the thing with marketing too, that can be sometimes bad, is like you can show up with like a shitty product, but you're like epic on marketing, and we've probably gone into that ourselves, where we've got marketed a really cool shoe and it just looks sick and everybody's wearing it and they have a great podcast, and then we tried and we're like, oh, this was a pretty shitty shoe. But it's the power.
But they sold us with the marketing and the appearance, and
correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's on that. On the how do you balance it all, and I love that question because so many people have asked it over the years, not just now that I switched from Schlumberger to Midnight Marketing, but just in general. I've always had quite of a busy, hectic life with so much going on. And I think how I'm able to balance it all, and I wouldn't even say balance it because I don't believe in balance, is more of, I thrive off chaos. I thrive off a very busy calendar. As long as I'm taking care of myself, and then that makes me a better mom and a better wife, then we're good. I think what's been really good for us in terms of like being a good couple is that we support each other's endeavor no matter what. So even when I went out and I worked on a rig for 5 years, I never had Tim go like, oh, here you go again, another month out on the rig, 2 weeks out, what about us? Like, I wasn't a great wife. Like, I wasn't cooking dinners for 5 years. I wasn't providing to the family as a wife would, because I was working out in the field. But he never would complain about my absence. He would never complain about the fact that I was going out to this career, you know, that I had to move. We moved like 3 times. There was never, he's been the kind of guy that's just like, man, whatever you need, I'm here. You want to jump off the bridge? I'll most likely jump off with you, or I'll support you on the other side and make sure that you're picked up on the water.
Soft landing, yeah.
Yes. So I think that
like...
freedom of just, that's why I balance it so well, because I feel like there's never been an ask of who I need to be at home or who I need to be anywhere. It's just like, whatever you need, like, we're here to support.
So it sounds like your overall answer is having a great partner.
Great partner.
Helps a lot.
It helps a lot, especially even with having our daughter, where I may be very busy. I traveled to 9 different countries last year. Like, he shows up. He's never like, oh, I gotta pick up our daughter today, or I need to stay with her after work hours or whatever. It's just like, he just takes care of it and does it. And there's never any negativity towards me not being there for it, you know?
That's cool.
And so, yeah, I think it's an overall good balance because we make it work really well.
Cool. Well, man, great talking to you. I want to kind of input a new segment into our podcast that hopefully we'll be doing every podcast, and you're the first victim, or hopefully, let's say you take it in well. But basically, just a quick hitters segment, right? That we'll end every podcast with, and basically you have to pick one. Okay, so it's gonna be the this or that, and if you don't, you have to quickly tell an embarrassing story about yourself or a friend. You don't have to name names, whatever. Right, something funny and quick. Okay, so first, let's go. What would you rather, solve a design flaw or invent a brand new product?
Invent a brand new product.
I'm with you. I have a feeling just the way that we're talking and vibing, we would have a lot of the same answers. So we'll skip that one. So morning workouts or late night gym sessions?
Morning workouts. I'm not a late night session person.
And I witnessed that because my wife especially follows you on Instagram, and she's like, oh my God, she's always up running.
5:30,
Yeah. Okay, so automate a factory process or improve product quality manually?
Improve a manufacturing process.
It's a lot of these questions honestly sound like corporate over small startup businesses, like the mindset. Okay, so next one, take over family business or start your own company from scratch.
Take over. Start my own company from scratch.
Oh, we knew what you wanted to say.
No, but I was thinking like if my mom or dad gave me a business, I wouldn't want to just inherit it and be like, oh, I'm going to run all these restaurants. I would have wanted to do it myself. I don't want to be given something.
Oh, you're thinking family from. Yeah. By the way, back to mom. Is she good? She's working still, or she's living in Canada? Yeah,
she lives in Canada. And actually, great question, because she just retired like 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
At 66.
Is she going to move here?
No, she can't because of her visa, because Canadians. But she went and booked a trip to Puerto Rico to visit my uncle for 2 weeks. Then she's going to Colombia for a month and a half. She's going to Machu Picchu in Peru. I mean, she's living her best life.
Oh my God.
And then she's coming to Texas for 2 weeks. And so amazing. It's really rewarding to see her today. And it was interesting because, you know, for immigrant parents, it's not always like a good positive story in terms of like, the way I see it is I feel lucky that I was privileged to have her as a mom who did so much for me to be where I am today and be successful and like not have to worry about money and just like a great career. But for herself, to be very transparent, she didn't have success. You know, she's had shitty jobs her entire life. Her last job that she just left, I think she's making like $22 an hour, slaving away. Gosh. And I think that was hard for me. And I think a lot of immigrant kids were like, you're good now. Like, and of course you give back to your parents. Like I've helped her with car issues, with like, hey, you need $2,000, here's $2,000. Hey, come. If she goes on a trip, I'll offer to pay for it. Like you do that as a kid for most immigrants. Like you give back to your parents.
It feels good to do that.
Of course. And it's like, I would never be able to let my mom pay for something if we're together. Like that's just weird to me. Like of course I'll take the tab. Of course you want to buy that at the store, I'm gonna buy it for you. It's just who I am, and I think it's been instilled in us of you take care of your parents. Yeah. Especially because I'm an only child, so there's nobody else to help her or take care of her. Something I'm very proud of, and I feel like I don't think you could be very successful and not be able to help your parents. You know, like part of the success that I wanted was to be able to provide for her and help her out. And so actually, she wasn't able to retire at 66, which she just turned, because the money still wasn't enough. She doesn't have a 401k. She doesn't have stocks.
Savings.
She doesn't have savings. She doesn't have anything to fall on. No pension, you know, the traditional people who just work basic jobs their whole lives. And so I went to her and I was like, hey, the difference between what Canada is going to give her if she retires at 66 plus her old age wasn't enough to still take care of her life. But with a little bit of what I can do for her per month, it would offset what she was making at $22 an hour. And so I made a deal with her where I'm just going to pay her every month a certain amount, which is nothing crazy for me, but it's the world for her to be able to take what I'm giving her plus the what the Canadian government gives her, and so she was able to retire. And to me, that's what success is.
So you basically, you can say that you retired your parents.
Retired my mom.
You retired your mom. Yeah. That's so cool.
With the help of the Canadian government.
Plus, with the dollar to Canadian dollar exchange rate, that helps.
Yes.
So quick, and I'm just a little bit off subject, or on subject, but off the quick hitters. Is there anything, it sounds like your mom did everything pretty much right raising you, but is there anything, because similar situation, it sounds like obviously dad is home with Tim, but your daughter's also an only child, right, so far, and growing up, right? And so is there anything you would do different than your mom did for your daughter?
You know, I think I have the struggle today with just knowing that Sky's going to grow up in a very different world that I grew up in. But I still want her to have my qualities and drive. And so I think this is a struggle that a lot of parents have where they didn't come from a lot of money and now they have a good life. But you still want your kids to have that drive, to know that things aren't given to her, etc. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, I mean, something that she wouldn't do, like, no, I really think she did the best that she could. And I think sometimes we judge our parents on a lot of things when they were going through life for the first time. And they were raising a kid for the first time. So it's like, I think she did the best that she could with what she had. But I think the thing that I think weighs really heavily on me today that I wish, like, not that she wouldn't have done, but it's she gave up her whole life for me. So she never dated anybody past my dad because she never wanted to bring a man to the house for protection. She just heard horror stories. And so she gave up on her love life to never give me a stepdad for protection. She never did really much with her own life or traveled the world or did anything because she wanted to give me a better life. And so I think it's hard, and like, of course I'm so thankful for it, but there's a lot of weight on my shoulders in a way of like, damn, my mom gave up her whole life. You know, so like that sucks for me.
It sounds like maybe you did already do what maybe you felt that she was missing in her life is Tim, you have a husband, you have a full family and a child, and you're not working job to job making, you're successful, you have money, and you can provide for her.
Yes, so and I think at the end of the day, for every parent, success is seeing your kids do better than you. And so I know she's, even though she didn't have access to a lot, or she never like built a home and had nice cars or like any of that stuff, I think she could die happy knowing that like her daughter made it, you know what I mean? And I think for me is like, I don't think, at least for me, I don't think I could be successful and like enjoy a great life and not help my mom out and not be like, dude, you're going to retire. Like, even if that means less money for me per month or whatever, like I know I can allocate those funds for her because I can't imagine people who are doing really great and have these beautiful cars and a great life and they didn't even like help out their parents who literally helped them become who they are today, you know?
No, happiness to me personally is not just being able, but just helping other people. And families first, so helping your family, but helping anybody. So that's very cool.
So I think to answer your question, because I didn't, what I would do different is I want Sky to have her own life and know that mom had her own life, and I'm going to have my own experiences, and I'm going to live life to the fullest. And enjoy my trips and do my own thing. Because I do think when you're doing that as a parent, you're showing your kids what's possible and what they should go out and do, and not have like her feel bad that I did all this stuff for her to make her who she is, you know? It's a hard topic.
They say when a generation that didn't come up with money then raises the next generation that went out there and now has money, the next generation, which would be your daughter, there's always a little scary thing you got to watch out for, because she's probably going to grow up not
spoiled
needing for anything. So you got to like show her like, hey, you know, you still got to work for stuff.
We still make her work for things and know she's not entitled, and
Cool, cool. Okay, so next one. This will be, I probably know your answer, but who knows? SLB or NOV?
SLB.
Okay.
Even though I love NOV. I love NOV people.
Well, because I know you have a bunch of relationships, obviously,
We do.
but you worked for
It's
one
still
of them.
family,
so.
you know, SLB is still family.
Okay, so family getaway or a business retreat?
Family getaway. I hated business retreats. I'm like,
Yeah.
I have to hang out with you people all day long.
And now
Gosh.
we got it. Yeah. No, I get it. Okay, this is maybe controversial one. Canada or USA?
Ooh, I'm gonna get so much hate on this. I love being Canadian. I'm so thankful for such a great country to have, you know, given so many immigrants a place to live safely and, you know, affordable school, etc. But after living in the U.S. now for almost 8 years, I mean, I love the United States of America. I'm so proud this guy's American. I'm like, thank God. There's
Best
such a big-
country in the world.
Honestly, I'll say it right here. Like, it's the best country in the world, and the American dream is still alive, and I love that. Versus in Canada, as much as I love the country and its great people, it's become like so difficult to just afford life. Businesses never thrive. Yeah, it's the government sucks. Like
Yeah. I have a lot of
it's a
friends
messed
leaving.
up country in the sense of it had so much potential to be a USA. We've got oil and gas. We've got resources. We've got a beautiful landscape of a country, but politics have just ruined it. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And so, okay, two more, I think. Yeah, okay. Cardio challenge or strength competition?
Cardio challenge. I'm
Okay,
a cardio.
I know you like your running. Okay, so work, this may be also a little controversial one. Would you rather work with or for a strong, polished, white male CEO leader?
Okay.
Or a young, flashy, maybe not so experienced Latina female CEO leader?
Okay, that's a hard one.
I mean, yeah, you can.
Okay, wait.
And if you don't want to
flashy
answer it,
Latina.
remember, you got to tell an embarrassing story.
An embarrassing. I think I'm.
Well, maybe I don't even say flashy. Just like a young Latin female that's doing her thing, that's, you know, hot and out of college and maybe becomes the boss quickly, or some dude that's been in there for a while that knows his thing. Like, where would you rather be if you had to be?
I mean, I don't think I could be based on like the Latina female or like the white older dude, because I've had great white old dudes that like I love working for, that like
Right.
believe in me and that like give me a good path. And then I think if the Latina is also awesome, like I would obviously want to work with a female Latina founder, etc. So for me, it's more based on the personality versus like their traits. Like
Right, right.
Latina versus a white guy, like I don't care. It's like who's gonna let me shine the most and who's gonna not be afraid that I'm going to steal their thunder or like, you know, let my ideas come to life. So I can't choose one because it really depends on personality.
Right.
So I guess an embarrassing moment, I'm trying to think.
There you go. Oh, I'm glad we would get at least one
An
of these.
embarrassing moment.
Yeah.
I don't know if people remember this, but there was a viral video that I did when I was working at Schlumberger and I was still in the field. It was called the Kiki Challenge.
Kiki challenge.
Have you heard of it? Okay, we could play it.
Oh,
one
yeah,
day.
we'll play
No,
it.
I'm kidding. Yeah, maybe we could add it in here.
We will.
Yeah,
We'll edit
so I was in the field and I had my coveralls. I was on day off, like days off. I wasn't working. And there was a Kiki challenge going on Instagram and on YouTube where it was the song by Drake. Like,
Oh, yeah,
Kiki,
yeah, oh, yes,
do you
yes,
love
yes.
me?
Yeah, yeah.
That one. And so you had to get out of the car and somebody would be like driving and videotaping you, and you just walk out of the car, you open the door, and then you dance as the car's coming along.
We even did that with my daughter. So
You
now
did?
I completely remember. Yes,
Families
yes.
were doing it, people were doing it with their kids and all that, you know?
Yeah.
And I decided to do it for the oil field. Okay, so I had my blue coveralls on, and I think I had removed the Schlumberger logo in the front, but the back one I forgot. So there's a point where I turned to the side and people screenshotted it. Okay,
Oh.
so I uploaded it to Instagram, and within like 2-3 minutes, I felt like a weird thing, like a knot in my stomach, and I'm like, this is not a good idea. I'm gonna get in trouble over this. I might get fired over it. Like, only after I recorded it and I posted it did I start thinking about this is not a good idea. And so I went out and deleted it on Instagram within literally 3 minutes.
But
I
people
deleted
still
it.
screenshot.
Somebody downloaded the video. I didn't even know you could download videos off of Instagram.
Yeah.
Somebody downloaded it and posted it on this huge Middle East Facebook group for like oil field. And so then I started getting random phone calls from friends that work at Schlumberger around the world. And they were like, hey, is this you on the video? And I was like, how did people get, first of all, how did people get this video? And that video started going viral worldwide. And they were doing safety meeting stand downs at all the Schlumberger locations, saying that somebody did this video, and if somebody's caught doing that, they will get fired because there's an HSC violation of somebody walking out of the car. I didn't think about that.
God. But who would do, what hater
Dude, I have so many haters. Like, welcome to my life.
But guess what? I think people like you and I use that type of envy, jealousy, hate, whatever is inside of a human. I talk about this, that like, if I see friends or family or business, even competitors do well, I'm like, immediately I'm like, great. And not only that, it's like, because I'm so competitive, like, okay, now I know the new high or where we got to get to. So, and whoever sees that is like,
we could do a whole podcast on.
We should.
Like, I say this all the time to people, like, only the people who aren't doing well in life or who are unhappy with themselves will shit on you. Nobody else would.
Right.
Like if you're happy and content and you celebrate other people's wins and successes, the more the universe will give you. That's how I see it.
And it's a reflection on themselves.
Yes.
So, last one, okay, and then I know you got another meeting you got to run to get you out of here. So, legacy business success or revolutionary innovation with risk?
I like risk, so the second one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming out. We enjoyed having you.
For letting me come on this podcast and share my story.
I knew it would be a good one, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Next time.